And I'm going to tell you a few stories today. And our subject is, don't lose it. Don't lose it. What's it? Big question mark. What's it? Don't lose it. Have you ever lost anything? You know, I never lost Kayla. Thank God for that. But could you imagine being in a store and you lose your child? You know, they're like, the panic. Now, I felt like I've lost Kayla a couple times. Like when she was little and her hand would slip out of my hand, and about 30 seconds later, Fran, you know, that freezing cold chill, and you're like, ah! And you're looking around, and then they're hiding in the clothes rack or something like that. You're, don't you ever do that again! Guys, thank you very much. You guys can go ahead and be seated. You know, have you lost your wallet? Anybody here lost their wallet? Yeah. It's important. How can you lose something that's important? I've lost my wallet. My watch. Have anybody lost their watch? Yeah. Your purse, girls? Come on. How can you lose a purse? Your life's in that purse. How important could that purse be? And yet you lose it? Oh my goodness. It's like the parent who loves their child dotes when their child loses their child. And you're like, what happened? How do we lose those things that are most important? Your car keys. You know you use that keys to get your car to where you're at. And you know where you've been at, where you're at. How did you lose those keys? Because you can't get back in the car to go home without them. Aaron did that just the other day. Came here to church, lost his keys. Oh my goodness. And he's smart. He's smarter than I am. And he lost his keys. What chance would the rest of us have? Important things there are sad things that we lose, our jobs. You know, can't make a joke about that. And we're holding on to it for all we got. We're trying to put out the very best performance evaluations we can, and yet we lose our jobs. You know, Mary lost Jesus. Could you imagine losing the Son of God? Mary, I'm going to give you a son, and he is going to change the universe. Just change the whole future of mankind. He is the Messiah. The Jews have been waiting for centuries for the Messiah. I'm going to give you the Messiah. And Mary lost Jesus. Lost God. How do you lose God? Lost God for 3 days. In fact, they went to the temple, and they're doing the worship thing in the temple. And Jesus, at 12 years of age, sits down with a bunch of the scribes and priests and stuff and starts teaching them. And they're shocked at how that teaching's going on. They're just listening to wisdom coming from this young 12-year-old boy. Well, Mary must have thought Jesus was hanging out with Joseph. And Joseph thought Jesus was hanging out with Mary. And they got back in this whole wagon train, heading back out of Jerusalem down to Galilee. And they get that evening to camp, and Mary looks up at Joseph and says, can you get Jesus for me? He goes, why? Jesus with you? No, Jesus with you. No, I've been taking care of the food, honey, because you said make sure we had food for the trip. You were supposed to take care of Jesus. Joseph goes, well, wait a minute. I'm the dad. I'm in charge of the kids. You're in charge of the kids, and Jesus is yours. And this huge fight breaks out, and then suddenly they're panicking. They're running through this caravan of people traveling back to where they live. And like, have you seen our son Jesus? And, you mean the God-child? No, he doesn't hang out at my house. He doesn't belong here. He wouldn't be hanging out with us. He goes, you don't understand. He hangs out with drunks all the time. He's just always hanging out. He probably belongs in your house. No, he's not here. Run down this, goes over, and there's these three girls sitting over here, and they're thinking about who they're going to be sleeping with that night. And they're all, have you seen Jesus? Oh, Jesus won't be hanging out with us. Why not? Jesus hangs out with people that don't have their identity set yet. Why? Because he's drawn to the hurting, the helpless, the ones that are lost themselves. Runs over to this couple that looks so absolutely wonderful, and they look very safe, and they got their lives together. Have you seen Jesus? And no, we haven't seen Jesus. So don't break up my storyline here. Haven't seen Jesus? Why not? You should be here. You got children. They're just maybe you have babysitting on your kids. No, I haven't seen them all day. Where could Jesus be? Finally, Joseph said, okay, when was the last time you saw him? Well, back at the temple. That's a day's ride back, all the way back in Jerusalem. What do you mean? I'm getting on my donkey right now, and I'm heading that way. Get on that donkey. Starts heading off to Jerusalem. Takes 3 days. They finally find Jesus. And guess where he's at? Right, what a good child. Right where they left him. In the temple, hanging out, still talking. That guy knew how to talk. Could you imagine? That's a 3-day-long sermon by a 12-year-old. You think my 45 minutes is bad. Imagine, okay, how many know my son Judah? 13 years of age. Amazing. Think of me up here preaching for 3 days and you're still raptured by what he's saying. Now, I know he knows how good of a communicator he is, but did you know how good of a communicator he was? Jesus, 3 days, they find him in the temple, still teaching, still communicating. I'm sure he took a break. His union said he had to have one at noon and every 2 hours. But you didn't know there was a God union, did you? Well, it's true. Jesus knew what it meant to be lost. Have you ever felt lost? Have you ever felt like you were lost? I know I look like a confident man, wife, 3 kids. I have a sibling of mine said, "You have never learned what it means to panic, David, because your life is so pulled together." Talk to my wife. Every day, it's a battle of making the right decisions. And every day, there are sometimes things that come up, and you're going, am I going to lose it? Am I going to lose who I am? You know, I can be so found just trying to be the husband that I forget who David Higgins is. Trying to be the pastor, I forget who David Higgins is. Do I lose who I am? And all of these happen, and the greatest thing that I can lose in them all is the most important relationship. And that is my relationship with my Heavenly Father. I love God, but loving God is different than having a relationship with God. You know, I love Beatrice. I mean, she is a sweet girl and such an amazing part of Michelle's in my life. But, you know, loving her is not the same thing as being friends with her, having a relationship with her. Now, car rides to our house kind of build that bond. You know, this last 2 days, David's come from work over to our little trailer, and I come from jury duty. We get together at 5 o'clock, and I'm exhausted because I've done nothing all day except think and listen and ponder and write notes, and he's done nothing all day except work hard. And we start cutting in the floor for the new place because we have to move into it this afternoon. And so David, he's working there with me, and you know what we're doing? We're building a relationship. He knows how I communicate and lose it when I drop something on my foot. I didn't. No. Thank God for a moment the righteous man showed up and he wasn't, you know, he was pleasantly surprised.